Hello friends, Sleepy Cat here. Today I want to bring some information to you all that's been requested by my community and in YouTube comments. So today we'll review some quick tips and tricks and tools to make your experience in the game a little better. You may know some of these inherently or have learned them over time, but you may also find some new enlightening information to make this easier. Quick note, I wanted to thank you all for watching, liking, subscribing to the videos, as well as all of you coming by my Twitch stream while I'm live with kind words and appreciation. This has been an incredible experience, and I just want to say how deeply grateful and happy I am to share one of my favorite games with all of you. Up until 2 weeks ago, I regularly streamed to only about 10 to 15 viewers and only had 120 followers and 50 subscribers on YouTube and only one video posted. So all of this support has been insane, and thank you all so much. So, before my chat makes fun of me for glazing too hard, let's actually talk about what I came here to make this video on. Let's talk first about what you should do the moment you log in. Wait, Sleepy, you may ask. I already logged in. I'm already level 100. I'm in Hell 5. Well, a lot of people miss these things because the game doesn't really spell them out. I know people in Hell 5 or level 100 who didn't know a few of these things and have just kind of been winging it. So first off, let's grab your most trusted friend for Hero Siege, other than a fat black cat with good opinions and sleep deprivation. That would be your companion. Everyone is granted a free companion, usually the Burning Server companion, but you also get the goose for verifying your account. There's also several companions purchasable in the in-game shop, from loot chests or on the Steam Marketplace where people will list in-game cosmetics for sale. If you didn't know about the Steam Marketplace for cosmetics, neither did I until recently, and I believe I will now promptly go broke. So, companions. The first thing you should do on every character. Companions will run around the map at warp speed in a relatively large radius around you, siphoning up the essentials that are too annoying to pick up. They grab gold, keys, runes, jewels, boss parts, souls. Pretty much most things that aren't quest items or equipment will be snatched right in your inventory by your new trusty friends. Equipping a companion is easy. You can do it from the character select screen before you log in by clicking the companion section and choosing one you have unlocked. Clicking on the show only owned checkbox in the bottom left helps filter them down for ease of selection. The same can be done in-game by pressing escape and clicking the little hat icon up top. Companions are something that increase the quality of life in Hero Siege so vastly I can't imagine playing without them for any period of time. I know some players have gone the entire game without them, and I can only send my deepest apologies that I didn't make the video about this sooner. It's something that isn't obvious or apparent unless you're told about it or are clicking around the cosmetics menu and just discover it. And it's not really spelled out on what the companions do until you equip one. Next up is a longer tip. Let's talk about loot filters. This is something that I do almost immediately upon making a character, or at least entering the first town after the tutorial section. I set up at the very minimum a highlight filter for the item affixes that I want. One thing that I feel isn't truly emphasized enough in Hero Siege is what a colossal difference a proper highlight and loot filtering can make in your experience. Especially as a new player or leveling up, just filtering the items and stats you want or need while going through the campaign on your way to level 100 will vastly change the game and your experience. Let's review the highlight settings first, as this is your first step to ensuring you have a better experience with items. We're going to press escape, click on options, head in the gameplay section at the top, and down in the bottom right we have loot filter. Once you enter loot filter, a lot is thrown at you. Trust me that this looks more complex than it is, and we're going to go over it in a very quick, simple way. You have two options presented to you, the basic filter and highlight settings. The filter is what dictates the tier and rarity of loot you actually see physically drop on the ground. The highlight settings dictates what has highlighted text to alert you of an affix on an item that you selected in the filter. It also makes it show up on the map as a little star. Let's review highlight settings and the basics. Getting set up with basic highlights is easy and can be done early on in any class just for the bare necessities of stats. We go into any item at all to start. First off, let's do helmets. Inside helmets, we go down to the bottom and select highlight filter. This is where we get the lovely drop down. So let me show you an example. I'm playing a plague doctor. I plan to level it up as a poison caster. Let me grab a few quick things that I want while leveling to help myself do more damage and survive. First off, we select useful stats for scaling an early caster in Season 6 throughout the journey. We want int per level, all skills, poison skills. Make sure to uncheck single skills here or it will show all sorts of things you aren't interested in. Flat poison skill damage, poison damage, which is a percentage, magic skill damage, also a percentage. Ignore poison resistance. These are the very basics. This is a great starter setup, so what I'll do is I'm going to hit apply all. This is going to apply these highlight settings to every piece of gear in the filter. This is a very wide net to cast, and you'll see gear highlighted as you play when it has any of these stats. Let me specify that when you filter 5 or more or even 10 stats on the highlight section, it doesn't mean items will show up only if they have all of the stats. It means if any item has one of any of the stats you chose, it will be highlighted on your map, mini-map, and it will show show as a special color of text on the ground when it drops. In the game's current iteration, there is no way to filter so that it only shows things that have multiple stats. If it has any of the ones you selected, you are going to see it. Now you can dive deeper on this as you begin to understand what it is you want and where. For example, I just applied this to all gear. However, you can fine-tune individual pieces. One thing I personally prefer to do on all new characters is go into the charms section and add in all resistances as well as all individual resistances like so, giving me a good wide range of charms with resistances on them. This helps as you get into Nightmare and your penalties to resistances start to kick in, and furthermore in Hell. I also tend to put things like mana on kill or life on kill when playing a caster for better sustain. A single +10 mana on kill charm can sometimes change the entire game and how it feels for a caster when you're clearing through maps. Something I like to do on Plague Doctor is throw a mana on kill highlight on my neck or my gloves just to find one early on and make the beginning game feel better. When I start to spend a lot of mana clearing through zones, this is really nice to have. This is just a small example of what this is capable of. I cannot stress how powerful a highlight filter makes you, just being able to better pinpoint your desired stats for character growth. The next section I would definitely consider more advanced, especially once you've figured out the highlight filtering. Well, now you have the option to filter out loot. Disclaimer here. I want to make sure everyone understands, if you filter out a type of item, be it by tier, D, C, B, A, S, you will not see that item even if it drops with a highlighted stat you've chosen in your highlight filter. As an example, I just filtered to show poison skills. If I were to tell my filter to hide all D rank helmets and a D rank helmet were to drop with poison skills on it, I would not see that item due to telling my filter I don't want to see D rank items. The highlight filter does not overwrite the actual filter itself. Please be careful when filtering out lower tiers of items. This isn't ideal if you come from something like Path of Exile with extremely intricate and advanced filters, but they are working on the filters to make them better and more functional for players. As I said, this method is more advanced, and it's especially so if you can do highlighting properly. When I make a new character, I basically do a highlight filter and then I just clear normal. I don't tune what drops until I get into Nightmare or even sometimes halfway through Nightmare, because I already know to ignore most things that aren't highlighted, especially once I'm wearing a piece of gear in every slot. That's because once we start hitting Nightmare, the monster level begins to get into the 70+ range and higher. We start getting more A and S tier drops. This means that if your gear feels like it's in a comfortable place, that's when you can take a moment and start trimming down the lower tier bases out of your drop pool. This means the items you see will have a higher quality, higher base stats, and a higher chance to have high tier modifiers of what you're looking for on your highlight filter. Otherwise, it can become overwhelming because low tier bases keep dropping and loot becomes more and more plentiful. Green clarity is good, and I have enough frame drops without adding 500 D rank gloves to the floor every time I kill a champion pack. So let's review how you filter out items. In the same section, loot filter, we click on an item type as we did before. Once again, let's use helmets as an example. Let's pretend I am in Nightmare and I do not have a need for any type of low tier helmets. I would just click them off and remove them. Oh wait, let's think about satanics. Sometimes even lower rank satanics are nice to pick up, and if your gear is in a not great state, we may want to keep them, even if we just dust or vendor them. Well, how do we do that? In each item tier, you can actually go inside and change what drops. There are two reasons to do this. One would be those types are valuable to you. Maybe you're ideally looking for a well-rolled mythic of that type of item and tier, or there are certain satanics of that tier you were hoping to get. Well, in that case, you can leave those on. The other case, and the most common, is rune word bases. You can, instead of just dropping entire tiers and relying on a rune word base to drop as A or S, you could leave B and change it to only show sockets for common tiers. Make sure the show section is still highlighted in the main portion, or you'll not be able to see the show only socket drops. This is how you can even further tune your filter to ensure you have control over what's on your screen. Late game, I find myself filtering out literally everything other than SS heroics, S tier flasks, S tier amulets, and S tier rings. A lot of other S tier satanics when playing a group SSF Blood Pact or even trade have little value to me outside of dust. Turning it back on just to dust them for satanic crystals is the only reason I would swap back, but this is a very late game mindset, one you should only approach in trade when you are very stacked on money or the late game economy has filtered out most of these as useful to you. Early game or progressing, I suggest leaving a lot of base types on. I wouldn't filter out A tier until you're in a mid to late hell and comfortable with your items and not in dire need of a good rune word base. A tier satanics I would leave on as some of them are sleeper strong or valuable in the early trade leagues. Expanding on highlight filters, let's talk about how to handle them for classes. I think a brief overview of this is due, and while I don't know every single class in the game by heart, I am still learning and going to be playing them on stream. I can tell you the generic idea you want to follow when playing a class and highlighting early like through normal. So if I was a lightning caster, I would want flat lightning skill damage, increased magic damage percent, increased lightning damage percent, all skills, lightning skills, ignore lightning resistance, and faster cast rate. On top of this, for sustain, I would probably want mana on kill as a wide net filter or just on specific targeted pieces, as well as cooldown recovery as many classes utilize this. On a physical character, depending on their abilities, but pretty generic for most, I would want attack speed, physical damage, attack damage, enhanced damage, all skills, and physical skills. Most strikers and attacker classes don't put as much weight behind plus skills as casters. They're still pretty good early on. Other than this, I would target either a wide net filter for life stolen per hit and mana stolen per hit, so you at least have one item for sustain, as well as cooldown recovery for some classes, as it is beneficial, like the Butcher, which you shouldn't play. Then for all classes, I make sure my charms show all res, each type of res, and cooldown reduction. On top of this, more fine tuning can be done to add things like crit and crit damage, which on trades sell very well on A and S tier charms, but are nice for leveling as well. You're just unlikely to see many good ones until later in the game. Now that we're past the filters, let's talk a bit about stats. I talked about additive damage versus flat skill damage earlier. Well, let's talk about these. These and a few other stats have thrown off some new players, as they're not really easy to understand at first if you're very new to the game. Additive damage, as in this picture, which is additive arcane damage, would only affect striking skills. Usually those with some sort of attack or attack speed component that do a physical strike and usually benefit from life leech or mana leech. Additive does not affect casted spells or skills in this scenario. So something with faster cast rate scalar that does not do an actual physical hit will not benefit from additive flat damage or sources of life and mana steal. Adding on to this, things like enhanced damage are not for spells. They are only for attacks. Enhanced damage is something that affects your base weapon damage, so spells are not calculated with it. Skill damage is what is used for spells. This line that says plus 55 to arcane skill damage is what you look for when it comes to casters. In this case, an arcane caster. Plus the skill damage is your spell damage scalar for flat additive on skills. This only works on casted spells and skills and won't affect strike classes or physical attacks. Furthermore, arcane skill damage will scale the damage of your arcane skills or spells by 1%. In the same category is magic skill damage, which affects all spells and skills that are casted, not physical or striking. These damage types are separated in what they affect. And in the next section, you'll have access to a calculator with the complex math of how they work. I won't go into extreme detail, as the tool in the next section can handle that, and I'm not very mathematically inclined. Cats aren't great at that sort of thing, and I didn't get much sleep. So next up, let's go over a quick helpful online tool called Hero Siege Helper. This tool offers many things such as information on the game, and rune words, glyphs, dungeon keys. It shows you things like the most cost-effective and experience-efficient dungeon to run for glyph XP, has a full calculator breakdown for how spells and attacks scale, all of which you can custom input values in. It shows abilities and auras. It has a bit of everything and is a great tool to use. Disclaimer and warning, some of the rune words on this website have not yet been updated as of the Season 6 patch, and you should always consult the journal in-game to review rune words. Make sure that you get the order correct, and also please check the base item that you're using versus what it says in the journal. It will show you what rune words work in what type of items. That way you don't end up having an experience like this person. And what do we got? Wait, I did it wrong. Wait, it doesn't work in maces. It doesn't work in maces. Oh no. Oh no, I'm stupid. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, I got excited for nothing. Clueless streamer. Oh no, George a little close. Oh no, don't Lamau me. Don't Lamau me. That didn't happen. I'm deleting the VOD. Damn, that cat's dumb. Wait, that's me. The tool I want to highlight here for you all is the filter tool. This essentially lets you create a filter in the website and import it into the game. This tool is actually slightly easier to use for a lot of reasons, as you get a wider view and scope, and it has a lot less entering and exiting menus for each thing. I suggest this tool highly if you want to make a highlight filter outside of the game preemptively before logging in, and as you can see, there are import and export buttons right on the loot filter section in-game. You can paste filters you create or others create into. It's a very simple, quick way to get good filters from others that have an idea of what's going on with their class, or to make it easier for you. However, I can't stress enough the importance of learning to create your own, as other people's filters may not always align with your playstyle or interests. I'll try to create a filter channel on my Discord in the future to help out those that are newer, so we can come together and have a good resource for everyone. As a final note, I did not suggest using the base in-game or built-in filters. I feel they highlight too many things that you do not want on every class. The net that they cast is far too wide, and it makes it confusing for someone who might be newer at the game, and even experienced veterans will become annoyed with how many things it shows. I think less is better in this scenario, and only targeting the things you know will give you the bang for your buck, and custom tuning to what you want is the best play. Hopefully some of these tips help you. I got a lot of requests to go over filters briefly, as well as heard from some people that they didn't know companions existed. Let me know in the comments if there are more things you'd like me to review in detail, and as always, you can stop by my stream to catch me live and hang out and watch my chat spam the Jorkin emote endlessly every time I say anything. Thank you for watching, friends, and thank you again for all the incredible support for a small cat streamer. If this is the first one of my videos you've seen, welcome. Feel free to check out my other videos on how to approach the endgame as a new player, as well as how to make gold on Trade League as a new fresh player. They should be on screen now for you to check out. I'm Sleepy Cat, and I'm tired. Good night.